Hi. Hello. Hi, Avery. So good to see you.
Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, everyone else in the live chat rooms. I see so many flowers, balloons, and hellos, and many good mornings, good evening, good afternoon. So I want to say hi to everyone on this live on YouTube, Twitter, and Binance Live. Thank you for being here, and we're very excited about today's conversation. Um, so, before we start, a brief introduction. I'm Nina Xiang from the Binance Academy team. And Binance Academy's mission is to teach everyone about blockchain technology, and we're one of the largest learning hubs in the industry. So today we have Avery Akkineni, president of Vayner3, joining us for a discussion on how NFTs help brands and creators transition towards Web3. So a very interesting and timely topic. And I want to say hi back to a lot of people, people from Bangladesh and other places in the chat room. So, but today, before we start today's discussion, a reminder to follow Binance Academy on YouTube, Twitter, and other social media channels to stay tuned with upcoming webinars and other great educational content from us. So, Avery, before we start, I think maybe a very brief introduction about yourself and also Vayner3. There are a lot of course, things people can find on Google, but for those who are in the live room, live streaming with us now, just a very brief 1-minute introduction.
For sure. Well, thank you everyone for joining us in the live room. And thank you, Nina, for hosting me. I'm Avery Akkineni, and I run Vayner3. And Vayner3 is a Web3 consultancy with offices in New York, Miami, Chicago. And we are fortunate enough to work with enterprises to help navigate all things Web3, from cryptocurrency to NFTs, blockchain strategies, and beyond. And we're part of the Vayner3's family. So if any of you all have heard of VaynerMedia or VFriends, it's all part of the same major company, which is owned and operated by Gary Vee. We've been into this space for about 18 months, helping to sort of build upon the initial foundations of the early days of Web3. And it's just come so far in the past year and a half. And we're really excited because we believe that it's still such the beginning. And partners like Binance and what you're building with Binance Academy, really helping to educate and inspire and empower users to participate in this ecosystem and economy is something that we are incredibly excited about and passionate about. So if any of y'all have not heard of us, do give us a follow. Check us out, Vayner3.com and Vayner3 on all major social handles.
Great. So I want to tell the audience right now that if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat rooms, and we're going to have Avery answer them at the end. And also, a very important disclaimer before we start all the discussion is that all the opinions and statements made during this webinar are for general information and educational purposes only, and should not be construed as financial advice, recommendations, or solicitations. Okay, so Avery, I want to ask you about, the merge and its impact on NFT market. But before we go there, I listened to some of your past interviews, and I felt one of the points you made during the interview was quite interesting, is that when you talk to big brands, the first step is usually a personal onboarding process for the executives to let them understand NFTs and how they could utilize them for their brands and IPs. So I'm interested in hearing that personal onboarding process that you do with so many companies.
Yeah, well, I think that the same is true for a lot of new technologies, right? The executive is, yes, a CMO or a CEO, but also they're a user. And I think helping them understand it and go through that journey personally helps that light bulb moment happen. I know for me, when I was first looking into the NFT market, you can see things of what's trending and who's trading what and hop into Discords. But until you actually go through that process to really join the community yourself, you don't really get it. And then once you start to understand the concept of digital asset ownership, I think the executives who've really gotten it have gotten it from really a user perspective first. And I think in the past several months, we've seen a cooling off of the sort of digital collectible space, but this sort of new era of entrance has also sort of played in making that onboarding process a little bit more simpler. I think it's the onboarding process right now into sort of getting participating in the world of crypto, in the world of Web3, has some barriers, and we're seeing some of those barriers drop. And I think a lot of people, including what you all are building at Binance, is helping to enable more people to participate in this. So it doesn't have to be this 14-step, really confusing process. I do believe, though, that the best operators and the best marketers are those who can actually participate in the culture themselves and understand from a user perspective what the journey is all about. But I want to touch on your point on the merge as well, because it's very relevant, very timely. Ethereum obviously went through one of the biggest transitions ever. I think the biggest, moving from proof of work to proof of stake blockchain. And that went off, it was very uneventful, which was actually amazing. It was exciting. I think there was a lot sort of riding on if Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation be able to pull this off. And Vitalik and crew pulled through and were able to do something that was incredible. The fact that there was even a countdown on Google. There was so much energy looking into like, what's going to happen here? Is this a Y2K moment, or is it going to all work out? It's pretty amazing. It all worked out. And while we saw a little bit of, softening on Ethereum pricing, that buy the rumor, sell the news of how people think about crypto, I think that this is an incredibly positive step for how enterprises can think about embracing the Ethereum blockchain.
And of course, lots of NFTs being minted.
Of course. Yeah, a lot of companies were doing cool things, creators, to celebrate the merge. There were a bunch that were sort of non-transferable that I thought were really cool. And everyone from A16Z to Consensus was minting out NFTs to celebrate this. Icon and POAP was celebrating this iconic day. So there's a lot of sort of, I would say, more of a cultural movement around what was happening to celebrate this technological advancement. There's a huge live stream going on where, thousands of people were tuning in to sort of see it happen live. There were NFTs that were sort of like progressive and were customized during each sort of point of the merge, which was really cool, a nice use of that technology. And then I think in the more mainstream press, it was heralded as a very positive move for the ESG considerations. For companies who have been afraid to operate within the world of Ethereum because of the energy consumption, this was a massively positive step.
I think, for my personal sort of confusion or question that I have is, like I've seen the merge NFT collections on OpenSea, and there are like tens of thousands of NFTs being minted or even more, I'm just curious, like what happens afterwards? Now we have all these NFTs minted, what purposes do they serve, to build a community, or are they just things created that's just going to sit there and not really adding, any values or be anything in the future?
Yeah, I think for the most part, they were commemorative. As I quickly touched on, some of them were actually like non-transferable. And I think that certain creators did that by design so that it wasn't meant to be something that people were flipping and trading, but rather something that commemorates that you were, paying attention and part of the merge day. I think that the vast majority of these sort of tentpole moment style NFT drops are really meant to be commemorative and to say, like, I was there when, the same way you might save a ticket for a favorite game or concert or something like that. Something that basically says I was there when this happened, and you associate that with yourself as a person as an early adopter. So I would think about it a little bit more like that. I do think that some of these communities will use this as a moment to sort of galvanize and build and come together, maybe do something with that in the future. But a lot of them were actually sort of intentionally designed to just celebrate a moment in history and say, I was there when.
Great. So I want to go back to my first question, which is that, that personal onboarding for executives. Like, can you have like 2 sentences to say, just to, I guess, bring out the gist of NFT and why this is valuable and why that all the brands and companies, IP owners, should incorporate them into their strategies?
Yeah, so I believe that NFTs are sort of a gateway for all things Web3. And I think that because Web3 is a broad topic that's also very deep. There's a lot you can do in this next iteration of the internet. There are a few sort of founding principles like decentralization and ownership and creator economy. But that can feel very abstract, especially if you're speaking to a marketer. It's like, hey, there's this huge wave of technology coming and you'll sign in with your wallet. They're like, but what can I do today, Avery? And like, what's a relevant move that I can make as a brand? And NFTs really served as that like first relevant entry point for brands to engage with their consumers, considering this is a new touch point. So for that reason, at Vayner, we went really hard after the NFT market. Following the launch of VeeFriends, really helping others understand what was happening in this ecosystem and participate in it. And I think that brands they understand things like trading cards and collectibles, and making those digital is an easy sort of bridge to cross. So I think it's something that brands can wrap their heads around and really understand. But if you've looked at how we've been communicating over the past couple of months, we've actually moved away from because we needed just something that was concrete to introduce people to, right? It was like, okay, amazing. You're going to, you want to participate in this, find a project that resonates with you and buy in, whether you're minting it on sort of the day it launches or seeing a project that's getting some steam that you really like. This is how you participate. And that was like a whole, get your wallet, get crypto, buy your first NFT, don't get scammed, make sure you get a ledger. That whole onboarding process can be pretty extensive. But I think that unlocked this sort of early era, like the 2021 bull run of NFTs was something that people understood. They understood the collectible element. They understood the trading element. As we've entered 22, that's shifted. And increasingly, we're helping our partners like onboard, like one, the sort of purest way, but secondarily, in terms of other platforms that are making it seamless and easy to participate, whether we're talking about Dapper Labs and Flow, we've done programs with them, whether we're talking about Nifty Gateway. We've been also finding ways that are a little bit of that bridge solution that's a bit more Web 2.5, I'd say, than sort of purely Web 3. But that's also opened this up for a whole host of both marketers and their communities to participate in a way that they feel safe in, that they feel is easy. Even some of our like not so technologically advanced clients have been like, okay, great, I collected an NFT here. Thanks for hooking me up with this. They've started to sort of participate in that from more of like a light way that kind of gets them in the game without going all in. I think we'll see a lot more of that happening, particularly as we see major announcements like what Starbucks just announced with their Odyssey program coming out. That's also meant to be sort of a passport journey situation that isn't as complicated and also isn't as super fan-like as what we saw sort of in a year ago in the world of NFTs.
Yeah, I think, as you say, some of those are abstract. So the best way is to maybe give an example and give the details and how that really works in the project. So I know you worked with so many exciting, brands and companies. Maybe you can just maybe shed some more light through an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week we did I'll give maybe two examples that can show different programs. So last week we did a really cool program with Johnny Walker, a drop on Block Bar. And Johnny Walker is the #1 fine whiskey that comes from Scotland all around the world. And they have a number of like very rare whiskeys that they're able to source from closed distributors. They're actually called Ghost and Rare, this sort of blend of this whiskey, because it's from these ghost distilleries which have been closed. People are crazy about this. They love these Ghost and Rare bottles. They're very hard to get your hands on. So for a limited supply, they actually were able to get us some for an NFT program. Johnny Walker has like very real and very clear ambitions to keep walking into the world of Web3. It's a brand that's existed for 2 centuries. And so far before there was a Web 2 or a Web 1 or a Web 0, there was Johnny Walker. And I think the mantra that they have around driving progress really comes through in their marketing. So we did a really cool drop with them where you could buy an NFT on BlockBar. You got not only the ability to redeem it for the physical liquid, but also an airdrop from an incredible AI artist called Ivana Tao. So that was one that did really well. You never know with today's market conditions, but happy to say that the public drop sold out in 12 seconds, which is pretty quick. So that's an example of something that's, providing both provenance and digital access to a highly sought after collectible. On the flip side, we're also announcing a really cool program with Dapper Labs, NFL, and Bud Light. This is all about sort of ultimate fandom in the American football space. They'll be powered by Dapper. Bud Light sponsors a number of different teams, and there's this really cool game where you can pick your team can, and it's a sort of predictive skill game. So that will be launching very soon. And that is designed for much more broad appeal. People who might not be deep in the NFT scene yet, but are interested in blockchain-based technology, and they're interested in football and aligning around a passion point. So I think those are two very different use cases, something high-end and luxury and rare versus something that has mass appeal, that's just designed to have an engagement program that surprises and delights fans by leveraging all the amazing assets that Bud Light has and the sort of brand equity of their cans. So those are two different use cases of things that we're working on at Vayner.
Well, for the second case you mentioned, that has, I guess, targeted more mass audience. It's also a nice way to have, bring more users to the Web3 era, I guess. So that's really good for the industry.
Absolutely. And I think that having diverse use cases for how to use NFTs or digital assets is going to be really important. We've seen that luxury case play out really well in fashion, not really anywhere else, actually. I think we've seen a lot of successful NFTs are really in the fashion vertical because they're able to take that cool from their brand and infuse it into the world of NFTs. I think that'll start happening across other luxury industries, whether we're talking about luxury auto, luxury spirits, luxury jewelry, et cetera. And then I think in the mass brands, there are so many brands that people want to affiliate with themselves with, and designing programs there that are really meant to be scale and all about creating a new opportunity to engage with brand consumers is super interesting and fun. And I think the early adopters of Web3 are going to benefit from both of these things. As more people come into this space, more people are engaging. It really helps kind of lift up the general perception of NFTs, and also helps bring more users into the space, which creates more use cases for a lot of the technology that these early builders have poured their hearts and souls into.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think we see I guess the other way around, NFT original, I guess, product that merges with, I guess, physical luxury brands. We've seen with a very famous NFT collection producing luxury brand jewelry, right? So we've seen that as well. So I guess, a lot of things are merging together and different kind of manners. Do you see, what are some of the, ways of how brands and NFT will interact in the future that you see that hasn't happened, but will probably happen in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nina. I think the collaborative use case that you mentioned, we've seen as that initial bridge and that initial authentic community connection. Where I believe this will go in the future, in the sort of distant future, is a lot of these assets that are physical today will shift to being digital only or digital first. I think there are so many interesting applications of a digital only or digital first product that take away some of the physical limitations, right? Everything from producing, let's just take jewelry since you use that example, producing diamonds and fine jewelry. Like there's actually like a very real physical cost and an environmental cost to extracting those resources from the earth. Creating digital only assets, I think, is a huge, really interesting use case. And we've seen the younger generation start to lean into this in places like Roblox, but we haven't yet seen that hit mainstream consciousness. I think that is a majorly important thread to consider and to keep our eyes on.
Do you see the digital first things, doesn't matter what they are, actually replacing, I guess, a large portion of the need for physical things?
Yeah, I think that in the long term, yeah, potentially. So for example, I'll give a personal example to you all. Like I love collecting handbags, and every special occasion,
I kind of understand that, right?
myself to one every trip, the duty free, got to go crazy there. And I think about how you build a collection over time, over your adult lifetime, pass things down from my mom or my sisters, and maybe to my kids one day. And it's, they sit in a closet in their dust bags for 99% of their lifespan, right? Like there's so much that goes into the sort of physical collecting that digital can actually replace it. And if I'm spending 10 or 12 hours a day on my digital devices. Don't I want to look cool in my digital devices versus like I'm at my house right now working from home. Nobody sees what bag I'm carrying today besides my husband and my daughter.
Yeah.
So
that's so true. Yeah.
There's like a very real use case. As consumers' lives shift more and more digitally, we will start seeing some of that status signaling that we see in real life start to come into digital life. I don't think we're there yet, though. Right now, even though I might spend 12 hours a day on my computer, that's across different ecosystems. It's not all in one place. So it's not like I could just be rocking my digital bag in all the digital places I'm going yet. But I think that's a major future use case. And in the more, I guess, more immediate term, I think that there will be something around loyalty and marketing efforts. We're working on this white paper right now for my team where we're talking about the different use cases for Web3 for advertisers. And as not sure how many marketers are with us right now, but any marketers know that the sort of deprecation of the third-party cookie on digital advertising has created, has created a little bit of a measurement reset for digital marketers. And I do believe that Web3 and wallet can really be that like next sort of touch point if done in a consensual way that also provides value to consumers.
That's really interesting. Once your white paper comes out, I wonder if maybe we should do another webinar on that. That sounds really
For sure.
interesting. Yeah,
it's very interesting.
So now we've talked about brands and IP owners, but now let's move on to the creator side. If you browse through any of the big NFT marketplace, you're going to see probably the vast majority of the collections having very little views or transaction volumes or attention being paid to them. So from the creator's perspective, what would be your advice for them to initiate and plan and execute a good NFT project for themselves as independent creators or as a part of the team on the project?
Yeah, well, the amazing thing about creators is that innovation always comes from creators, and don't look at brands for innovation, look at creators for innovation, is what I would say. I think that there are creators who are rethinking the ecosystem every single day. And there are also some who have, weathered the storm and continue to do really cool stuff. I'll give a shout out to Amber Vittoria, who is an ex-Vayner employee who has really built her artistic career into the world of Web3. And, despite the bear market, sold out her 1,000-piece collection pretty much instantly. She's done collaborations on Tezos. She's created real physical products. She's been an ambassador for a number of other sort of Vayner initiatives and brands like from Chips Ahoy to her writing her own book right now. So I think a lot of creators are finding ways to make this work. My advice to creators during this time is to think about a new model, and maybe one that is more about rewarding the collectors over time. Maybe starting with a low-cost mint, free mint, some type of unique access that hasn't been done yet, because I think the blueprint is very much being written. If you look at what worked even 6 months ago, it's very different than what works now. And finding creative use cases, maybe you dropped your NFT on Merge Day or some other special time where there's a cultural alignment. I think there's a lot of creative things that can still be done, but recycling that old playbook of a high mint price and in a low quantity, I think has sort of fallen off in terms of effectiveness over the past 6 months.
So you mentioned the success case. One of your former employees. What specific factors made her successful, you think?
I think it's 3 things. First is around community management. Amber's an amazing community manager. She's in her Discord, she's on Twitter, she's on Instagram, she's on TikTok, she's posting and engaging with her fans on social media. So I think community management is first. Secondarily is consistency. She's consistently there. She's consistently innovating. Starting with her letters collection, which dropped last year. Amber's done a number of very interesting and thoughtful drops that have been across several different platforms for ecosystem. And the third pillar I'll say is partnership. I think she's partnered with leaders in the space, both as artistic collaborators, as brands, as platforms, because I think she sees that in Web3, you can't go it alone. You need to go with a series of partners to really drive impact. So I think that sort of community management, consistency, and partnerships are the things that have really enabled a lot of the incredible success that she's well earned.
So I feel like she probably had quite a foundational base of fans and followers, subscribers. So for anyone who wants to do this successfully, I guess building that initial community that can that really enjoy and love your work would be the first step, and then you would continually build and expand that community. And then
I agree. I think it's starting small. Gary says this all the time. Like when he started, he had 0 followers. So it's really about showing up every single day and building it and giving back to the people who are part of your community, and giving back and giving back and giving back. Because everyone starts with 0 followers. You just have to start building and then stay consistent with it.
Mm-hmm. So you've touched on this a couple of times during the conversation, but I still want to ask you about how the market condition changes should change how creators and brands think about their plans and strategies. Like at Binance, we say build and build during bear market and bull market. We don't really care about the market condition. We just continue to build. So for some of the things you covered, but aside from those, what are other overall observations you have seen or advice that you have?
Yeah, I think we echo your sentiment. Just keep going is really our theory and our thesis here. But I understand that there are real economic challenges for some creators who might not want to participate in this space if there isn't an immediate opportunity from an economic perspective. So my observations would be, obviously the market has cooled dramatically. There's the year-over-year numbers are none too sunny. However, I will also say what goes up must come down, and a bit of vice versa as well. So we saw a really hot hype cycle over the past year, and that sort of cooled off a bit. Things are still moving, and we are seeing a lot of all the non-price metrics are overwhelmingly positive. Whether you're looking at developer activity, community size, new wallets, every other metric outside of sort of price is really strong. So we're encouraged by that, and we're encouraged by enterprises investing in developing blockchain-based applications that will really be the future. So I think that's the thing that we would sort of think about here is we are believing in this for the long term. In the short term, I think just the general mint price quantity has to be rethought in the context of where we are today. So smaller drops, lower priced, with a very clear and specific utility are really where we're sort of driving our partners to start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. What worked in September 2021 won't work in September 2022. Let's be realistic to the market conditions and design a program that has every opportunity for success and is also FUD proof. Hey, it's great if we sell 100, it's great if we sell 10,000. How do we design these programs that are really meant to be positive, regardless of the sort of financial outcome? Because while that's super important, sometimes that does cause people to lose the long-term vision.
Mm-hmm. Great. So the audience, if you have any questions, please send them in, because we will be ending the live stream soon. And also, I want to remind everyone to be nice and do not send any spam messages in the chat rooms. Okay, so Avery, we covered a lot of grounds. Are there anything else that we didn't cover that you feel is important to share?
Nothing major. We are very much looking forward to Art Basel. So I hope that many of you all have the opportunity to join us in Miami for Art Basel. I'm based in Miami, so it's selfishly a little passion project for me.
Awesome, great. So everyone, you can look at the video description section where we have some article links for you to read more about NFTs. And also, of course, you can find Avery and also Vayner3 on the internet. We can probably share the links as well for you to follow them. So thank you so much for a very insightful session today. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much, Nina. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
All right, so everybody, bye. So see you next time.